What are cryptocurrency gas fees?
Oh, that's easy. That's the fee that you have to pay for minting smart contracts into the blockchain.
Well, Dragon, let's make it simple. NFTs are changing the world, and change can feel complicated and scary. But listen, you don't need a computer science degree. You don't need to learn how to code. You just need practical skills to win.
If you are here, you are in the 1% of humans that are preparing for this major cultural shift. We're going to keep it fun. We're going to keep it light. We're going to make it practical. Welcome to NFTs Made Simple.
Just a reminder, we're not financial advisors. This is not financial advice, and you should do your own research.
Hey, let's get into it. All right. So lay it on me, brother, because everybody comes up to this. There's so many different hurdles and speed bumps and all kinds of stuff that people come up to. What is the actual definition for gas fees?
Yeah, so let's break down the textbook definition of what a gas fee is, because it's an important concept to understand on your NFT journey. So the gas refers to the fee that's required to successfully conduct a transaction on the Ethereum blockchain. And, gas fees are going to be seen across multiple platforms, but basically it's the fee that's required to do some sort of transaction on the Ethereum blockchain, right? So break it down. Give me a more not so much textbook, Dragon. Give me a simple, let's make it simple, brother.
Well, you know that Dragon is not really synonymous with textbook. So, it's interesting because we talk a lot about this whole concept of, the first thing I want to say is we're getting used to this idea of NFTs and all that stuff. It's all new still. Even if you're in it, it's evolving and stuff. But for those that are following us in this podcast, that come across these different speed bumps and hurdles and things like that with new words, that's what we want to address today. When you are in the process of purchasing or even owning an NFT, there's this thing called a gas fee. Now, if we put it into like normal terms, you understand that gas is something that you put in car, or fuel is something that you put in something to make it go, to make it work. So we understand that concept of fuel and gas. And we also understand the concept of paying for the fuel and the gas, and we understand the value. So the same thing holds with NFTs. There's this misconception that all I have to do is take, some sort of a digital picture and then mint it. And we've been talking about that stuff and put it on this blockchain and somebody will just have the opportunity to buy it. And my thought was that I knew somebody would get a cut of it or something like that because nothing's for free. But when I learned about gas fees, I didn't understand that there's people that are working, to do the computations of the, cryptocurrency algorithms and all that stuff. There's people that actually have to go through stuff that I don't know how to do. So they have to be paid. And then there's also the concept of, keeping the lights on and facilitating the energy to keep these things going. So that's what it on the surface level. And we'll get into some cool concepts about gas fees when I do create an NFT and I mint it, meaning I'm going to take it and give it a unique, number and make it, something that is sellable or tradable, and I put it on the blockchain or one of these marketplaces we've been talking about. It comes with a fee. And that fee, what's interesting about that fee is if you don't understand that fee, and a lot of artists and musicians, are struggling because of this. If you don't understand that fee and how high or low it can be and where it's associated with most, you might end up getting excited, creating an NFT, and then selling it for the same amount of money that you spent on it. So that's why we got to talk about this stuff.
It's very important. And some of the concepts we're talking about in this episode, we've already kind of laid down the framework moving into this. You need to understand the concept of blockchain, which is really important because the more supply, there's a supply and demand dynamic to gas fees, right? The more the demand there is to put your transaction on the block forever, the higher the gas fees are. Because like you said, this is the cost of doing business. This is the cost that you're incurring so that it can be cemented in the blockchain by the decoders, the miners that are, again, validating that your transaction is legit. That's really important. And understanding what a blockchain is a really important factor of that as well. Now, the reason, and I'll just give you a little story here, Dragon. The first transaction I had with NFTs was setting up my MetaMask wallet. And in order to do that, you do a test transaction. You transfer basically 1 cent worth of cryptocurrency onto your wallet to validate that it's in place. The gas fee for me to transfer 1 cent to my Ethereum wallet was $20. So I'm thinking there, like, didn't we want to go decentralized? Don't we go to crypto because we don't have to pay the man to do our transactions? And my very first transaction was $20 in the hole to transfer 1 cent. Now, it's not proportional in the same way that traditional finance works, but depending on the type of transaction you're doing, depending on the amount of coding that's required to make it happen, those are going to be correlated with the gas fees. So I don't know if you have a similar story with setting up your wallet, but that was my first entry.
You brought something up, you said, isn't the whole idea, when you paid, you thought it was a cent, but then it cost you money to do it. And you said, I thought the whole idea was that I wouldn't get stuck by the man. But we have to, in this place right now, as we talk about this, and I'm going to help put it into a cool context in a second. We have to realize that, that kind of a freedom to exchange currencies, cryptocurrencies and NFTs, it comes at a cost. It's not for free, And I think that what's hard for people to understand is that there's this digital place, this blockchain. And you got to remember, people are like spending money buying land in this digital place, So currency and trade is actually exchanging from this real world to in there. So everything's going to cost money in there, but that doesn't mean that there isn't a huge opportunity. So check this out. I wrote this, and this was me kind of like trying to explain it to myself as if I didn't know anything. So basically, what I interpreted, when I was learning about gas fees is the effort and power that it takes to do the crypto computation. Now, remember, in the beginning, when we went over, one of our most viewed or listened to episodes was when we were talking about cryptocurrency, making that simple. We were talking about cryptography and stuff like that. That's not just something that happens. There's people that do that, like coders and stuff like that. So the effort and the power that it takes to do the computation to preserve all that we love about the blockchain, that's what I was saying before, is what it is that we must pay for. So it's like freedom, right? You got to pay for freedom. So those that hear about that, those that we hear that are doing things called mining, you've heard about people that are mining. You see these videos of these guys that have like these freaking like farm shacks with like all these miners and, and they're just printing money and stuff like that. Nobody really stops and says, what the hell is that? Like, what's the mining? So those people that are doing the mining are basically buying these machines that are doing that work. That's why they're making money. They're getting paid for that computation. So the gas fees, remember, it's not actual gas. This is just a term it's like a NFT crypto term. The gas fees actually go up, as Mark was saying before, but I want to zero in on this. The gas fees, meaning you spend more money in accordance with the workload. It's not about like how much stuff is going on. It's about how much stuff is going on at the time that you are transacting. So when there's a large amount of transactions, say there's a big drop or something like that, everybody gets all excited about this big drop. But if you want to get in on that drop at the time where everybody's trying to get in on it, that's a lot of transaction. And that means that these mining machines and all these dudes that are doing the computation are working like super, super hard. So naturally the fees would go up. So, like some people will like stay up, I see that Ty Lopez, for instance, is like getting ready to do a big drop. He's going to do a big drop tomorrow and it's going to be like earth shattering. And it's funny how everybody's kind of playing on what Gary Vee accomplished with VeeFriends. It's like, we don't want to miss that again. So the hype is there. And we talk a lot about that. But if everybody is sitting there going, trying to get there for the first drop so you can get it at the low cost before, that's going to cost you more gas. And it's also going to cost Ty Lopez more gas fees. So he needs to like go nuts with promoting that. So you also pay gas fees, almost finished with this, also pay gas fees according to how fast. This is really interesting. You pay gas fees according to how fast you want the transaction to be completed. Here's what I mean by that. You're going to have different options. Like if I want to purchase an NFT when there's a drop, or if I want to purchase an NFT right now, even if it was after the drop, if I want that purchase to happen fast, like within like 10, 15, 30 seconds, I got to pay more gas for that. But I will have the option too to say, I don't care how fast it happens, which means that I'm at risk of losing that purchase power of getting it at the right time. When I've noticed this, by the way, Mark, when I buy cryptocurrency is, let's say I want to buy, and you heard the disclaimer, we're not by any means financial advisors, and we are not teaching you what to do. We're just two normal dudes with kids that are trying to figure this stuff out. But I'll see like Cardano goes down and I'm like, cool, I'm going to buy this cryptocurrency. But then I'll be like pissed, like, wait a second, when I actually see it happen, and I see what I bought it at, it's like 3 cents higher than what I bought it at. And that's because there's fluctuations going on during the time that you buy. Same thing happens with NFTs.
Yeah, it's basically supply and demand, like you said, right? The more people that are trying to get their transactions solidified on the blockchain, the more it's going to cost you in gas. And to your point, if you're not paying enough gas and you're not being solidified on this block in the chain, and you're not solidified on the next block in the chain or the next, but you have a risk of your transaction not being recorded at all. So you have to be willing to pay the piper. Before we move on to the next episode, there is, you can probably smell here, there's a little bit of a problem with gas fees. As a chain like Ethereum becomes more and more popular, the gas fees are going to get larger and larger and larger. We don't want that. We don't want to pay for gas, right? We don't.
I just noticed that you're getting comfortable with all this lingo because Mark just skipped calling it blockchain. He just called it the chain.
Yeah, the chain. We off the chain over here. And by the way, that's why this show is important, because the more you listen, the more ingrained, the more obvious this will sound, right? But listen, at the end of the day, I'm here to make money. And what's really, I think, important about gas and this evolution in the way that we transact is old types of work are going to go away and new types of work are going to come into view. So understanding this is going to open up new opportunities. Hey, what's up? Mark here. Just want to take you on a quick break with a resource I think is really going to help you. Some of the concepts that we're covering in the show sound really complicated and really technical, but listen, you don't need to code. You don't need to get a master's degree in computer science. All you need to do is have the right resources. We're going to make it simple. We're going to make it easy. I've got a link below. Go to www.nftsmadesimple.com. That's nftsmadesimple.com. You're going to get a free cheat sheet there. It's 100% free. What are you waiting for? Go get the cheat sheet. We're going to break down some of the key definitions in ways that are really practical and really simple. Go to nftsmadesimple.com right now to get your free cheat sheet. That's nftsmadesimple.com. All right, let's get back into the show. And I don't want to go too deep into this concept, Dragon, but what we're talking about with gas fees is basically a concept called proof of work. Proof of work. It's the work that's done to solidify that the blockchain is accurate as blocks get added on. That's why you pay gas fees. But there's a new technology, there's a new type of way to actually generate income off your cash or off your coins while also validating that the blockchain is accurate. And that's called proof of stake. So I don't know that we want to go too deep into this, but proof of stake is something that's being developed and I'm very interested in. Basically, I'll just give you a quick 3,000 foot overview. Basically, what it means is that if you hold Ethereum or if you hold crypto on that block, you can freeze it. You can say, listen, I'm not going to do any transactions with my Ethereum for a set period of time. And what that does is it makes the job of the coders, the decoders, these cryptographers much easier, because now they don't have to validate that all of your transactions and your data is correct. All they need to do is validate that the new information is correct. So proof of stake is probably an own episode on its own, because it's an awesome way for you to generate income off of your crypto if you're not transacting or day trading it. But I think it is important to understand that gas fees are a problem, but there are solutions being laid out so that we can correct said problem.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I always like when we use the P word, problem. I think it's just like a hurdle and a challenge. We're, like Mark always says, if you're listening to this, and a lot of people have reached out to us and they're excited about this idea, that if you're listening to this podcast right now and following it along in 2022, you're literally a pioneer of something that hasn't even really happened yet. It's just starting. So right. Gas fees are an example of some of the hurdles and challenges we're trying to figure out. It makes sense that people have to spend money, to make money and have this freedom. One of the things, just to accent what you were just saying, Mark, which is so true, is the difference between proof of work and proof of stake. Is there's an example of us learning, when I first got into crypto, I didn't know anything about staking and I didn't understand that concept, but I've learned that. So I'm actually, any cryptocurrency that I have staked, I'm actually earning more money off of it. But right. Also now we're seeing that it's less work for other people. So we're seeing the advent, one of the big problems is that one of the most popular cryptos is ETH, and ETH just happens to be, the cryptocurrency that was primarily being used to buy NFTs until Solana came, and there's Solana NFTs. And these people are all fighting for, the best bang for your buck. That's what's going on. So now we're hearing that Ethereum is coming out with Ethereum 2.0, which is going to be a mechanism of transacting. One last thing that I wanted to share, which is fascinating about gas, because with this expense as a buyer, you actually can control a little bit of it. And there's something called a gas limit. What I want you to do, and we're going to put references where we got this information, because I promise you, Mark and I didn't wake up knowing this stuff. Like, we're going to put the references and the links there. So do your homework like anybody should. But one of the things that I found was that there's this thing called the gas limit, right? Getting all gassy here. And the gas limit is just an indication of the fact that I can actually put a limit on how much gas I want to spend, right? Sometimes, here's what's interesting, is if I make a purchase, and this is another buyer's beware thing. If I make a purchase of an NFT and it ends up costing more gas than I want to spend, you could actually lose a lot of money that way. So you got to know about gas fees. A lot of people go in and they get excited because somebody gets them. No, nobody, here's the funny thing. I'm listening to the big hype machine behind, like, hey, we got this drop coming tomorrow, and if you get in, you're going to get the utility and all this stuff. And I just see this herd mentality going to buy it and saying, all right, I'll drop, 0.3 ETH on that. I've got that in my wallet. I'm just going to drop it on there. But they don't understand the other things associated with it. And what I notice is that the guys that are hyping the drops are not saying, like, by the way, you're going to get crushed on gas with this. So we're seeing a lot of that stuff going on. So hopefully this brings a little bit more consciousness and awareness to the other pieces that are attached, but it doesn't make you afraid of it. Mark and I are going to go into an episode next that's going to really talk about the idea of, like, is now the right time to buy, and what should you know? So you'll get informed with that.
Word up. Well, thanks for listening. If you haven't yet, make sure you hit the subscribe button if you learned something, and let's move into the next episode. If you learned something about gas, this is the time. Hit subscribe. All right, let's move on to the next episode.